You mentioned there's skillful fighters out there. One guy that I do think is skillful, Terence Crawford. Obviously he had...
Terence Crawford has been underrated all his life, even when it comes to his boxing skills and power. Over and over again, the world champion from Omaha has tried to prove himself to the boxing world, especially with his 9th round knockout win over Errol Spence Jr. But surprisingly, even Floyd Mayweather didn't fully understand Terence Crawford's greatness until now, after a training session with him.
Terence Crawford position, is it time for him to move up?
Wait. I think when he was like, I really super.
The pair trained as Terence Crawford prepared to face Canelo Alvarez, and later they engaged in a sparring session where Terence Crawford dominated Floyd Mayweather, even hurting him with his skill and punching power. The sparring session was a shocking revelation to Floyd Mayweather, who had no choice but to admit Terence Crawford's prowess.
And I'm gonna tell y'all the truth about Canelo. Easy, man. Cakewalk. Easy. Y'all sitting up here, y'all praising this dude. This dude was nothing. I was almost 40 years old when I cooked this dude.
Terence Crawford decided to involve Floyd Mayweather in his preparation for his fight against Canelo Alvarez later this year. The undefeated boxing legend was nothing short of impressed after seeing how improved Terence Crawford had become. Floyd Mayweather had no doubts that Canelo would be knocked out when the fight happens. Adding to his already perfect skill set, Floyd Mayweather taught Crawford some defensive techniques to avoid being hit by the bigger man. Shoulder roll was one of the techniques, and he also demonstrated some footwork for Crawford to imitate. It's interesting to see that Crawford is preparing for both Canelo's offensive and defensive styles, whichever one he brings. The undefeated pound-for-pound king believes Crawford would be able to do some serious damage to Canelo. After the training, Floyd Mayweather reminisced about his fight against Canelo Alvarez years ago and claimed he sees so many similarities between himself back then and Terence Crawford now, implying that the result won't be any different from what it was 12 years ago.
When I fought Canelo, I was 36 and Canelo was 23, around the same age. Some of these guys.
Mayweather fought Canelo in a World Boxing Council, WBC, and World Boxing Association, WBA light middleweight showdown in September 2013. It was the 45th contest of the American's glittering career, facing a young Mexican fighter who was taking on his toughest challenge to date. The fight was seen as a tough test for Mayweather heading into it, but it turned out to be a one-sided affair, with the American winning by majority decision. Even though the scorecards had it much closer than most boxing fans expected, Mayweather dominated the fight throughout, using his skills and expertise to outclass Canelo over 12 rounds.
It's really that they don't want, it's not that they don't want to see Tank win because they feel like it's beating me because I dominated the fight game for so long. But these same writers out here, they praise Canelo. He can pick and choose who he want to fight.
Speaking to Fight Hype, the 47-year-old Mayweather didn't hold back when discussing Canelo's boxing ability. He summed up the fight in 3 words: he was nothing. Mayweather then elaborated, "You can take a guy like Canelo. I'll tell the truth about Canelo. The idiot was easy. A cakewalk. Easy. You're all praising this dude, but he was nothing. I was almost 40 and I cooked this dude easily."
World titles and was undisputed champion, I think. The Tank age, the young low champions.
Mayweather retired a few years later, but over a decade on, Canelo remains one of the biggest names in boxing, securing world titles at middleweight, super middleweight, and light heavyweight, even becoming undisputed in the 168 lb weight class. After tasting defeat for the first time against Mayweather, Canelo went on to win his next 15 fights, securing world titles in multiple divisions. He now looks set to take part in another huge boxing clash, with a fight against fellow pound-for-pound great Crawford reportedly agreed for later in the year.
Canelo was 23 with 43 fights and 30 knockouts. And the world said he was inexperienced. I was 36.
Observers believe the weight difference could be too much for Crawford, who would be jumping up from 154 lbs to 168 lbs for the fight. Having only competed once in the super welterweight division, many believe that Canelo's size advantage could result in a big knockout win for the Mexican, similar to when he faced Amir Khan, who had also moved up 2 divisions for their fight. With that in mind, Mayweather gave his verdict on what he thought of Canelo's power following their fight. When asked if it concerned him heading into the bout, Mayweather responded, "Not at all."
With 40-something fights. And to tell you the truth, I was over the hill. And so when I fight guys, when I'm in my 30s,
He added, "In the ring, it was nothing I hadn't felt before. It's nothing I've never felt before." After being in the sport for over 20 years, Mayweather's comments may give Crawford confidence, especially considering Canelo has failed to stop his last 5 opponents. The 34-year-old from Guadalajara, Mexico, currently holds the Unified World Boxing Council, WBC, World Boxing Association, WBA, and World Boxing Organization, WBO titles at 168 lbs, as he looks set to defend his crown against fellow pound-for-pound superstar Terence "Bud" Crawford later this year in what could be one of the biggest fights in boxing history. Canelo's only other career defeat came in 2022, when he was beaten comprehensively by former WBA light heavyweight champion Dimitri Bivol.
tell you why I like Eddie. So one day somebody asked you, because you know I don't have social media on my phone. Yeah. So they showed me Eddie. Eddie was like, "Boy, Mayweather ain't got no money."
What was even more interesting was that after Mayweather and Crawford met, Eddie Hearn was also at the training camp to support Shakur Stevenson. This created a small meeting of the biggest names in boxing. They say that what happens in Vegas stays in Vegas, but in the times we live in, with so many witnesses to what happens, especially when celebrities are present, it is difficult to keep it secret. If you add Floyd Mayweather's name into the equation, it becomes almost impossible to hide. A recent meeting between Money and the famous promoter Eddie Hearn in a gym in Sin City sparked some sparks. And although the whole moment was wrapped in jocular comments, it doesn't mean that they weren't throwing shade at each other.
They ain't got no money. That's why he doing exhibition. No, Eddie don't believe that now.
Yeah. But Eddie will say some shit like that. Like,
Eddie will say some shit, but one thing.
It should be remembered that Hearn had repeatedly suggested in various interviews that Floyd Mayweather didn't have as much money as he claimed, and this is why he was looking for exhibition fights. Mayweather earned so much during his stellar boxing career, pocketing in excess of $1.2 billion in total earnings, including from his lucrative paydays against Manny Pacquiao and Conor McGregor. Widespread reports indicate that Mayweather's current total net worth is around $400 million, which has allowed him to live an extravagant lifestyle outside the squared circle. Despite retiring from the professional ranks in 2017, Mayweather has continued to fight in a series of lucrative exhibitions against lesser opposition, including Deji and Logan Paul.
What about that? But me and Eddie got it clear. Didn't we, Eddie? Yeah. One thing, me and my buddy got it clear.
we said as long as it's 10 or 20, no problem. Anything less.
Boxing legend has repeatedly insisted he is earning 8-figure paydays from these events, going as far as to nickname them legalized bank robberies. However, when explaining why he was accepting these showman-style events, he insisted it was to continue building his generational wealth. Matchroom boxing promoter Hearn made the suggestion in multiple interviews that Mayweather's net worth wasn't as high as many expected due to his lavish purchases. Hearn commented, "I don't think he's got the money, he says. That's what I think. I don't think he needs the money, but when you've got that lifestyle, when you're spending what he's spending..."
Can't be less than 10. Because then we're struggling for money.
I had to show Eddie some of the account.
The climax came when Mayweather confronted Hearn in Las Vegas. The undefeated former boxer claimed that Hearn sometimes makes those kinds of comments, but that they had already cleared things up. They began to joke as if the news had been real, laughing and throwing jabs at each other. Their respective groups of friends celebrated what was said by both. The pair crossed paths in Las Vegas in a boxing gym as they watched some sparring. Both were in town for the fight between Diego Pacheco and Steve Nelson. Mayweather jokingly began a conversation. So one day somebody said, "You know, I don't have social media on my phone, so they showed me Eddie."
Imagine how much money Floyd Mayweather would have made if I was his promoter back in the day. You know what I'm saying?
Eddie was like, "Floyd Mayweather Jr. ain't got no money, that's why he's doing exhibitions." Mayweather responded, "Eddie doesn't believe that. I know he says some stuff like that, but me and Eddie got it cleared up." They both laughed, shaking hands. Hearn responded, "Yeah, as long as it's 10 or 20, there's no problem. Anything less, it can't be less than 10. The gag sent Mayweather bursting out laughing with a member of his team, clearly indicating there were no hard feelings.
I'm definitely waiting for that time because as soon as they release whenever they fight, I'm definitely gonna be in camp with them. First of all, I'm gonna be in camp with them. I'll probably be fighting.
Canelo Alvarez, no major injuries and all, seems ready to keep dominating. But I know that Terence "Bud" Crawford is going to go in there and get the victory for sure. Of course, we're not overlooking Dennis Hogan, who is a capable fighter. But at 25, Hogan is still early in his professional career and has a lot of time to refine his defensive skills. With a coach like Bo Mack in his corner, Hogan's defense could improve drastically, but the criticism didn't end there. Some even joked about Hogan's appearance, saying he could have $1 million and still stink. Ouch! But it's important to note that these criticisms often reflect a broader frustration fans might have with a fighter's public persona. On top of that, fans started bringing up Crawford's fight with Israel Madrimov. The question is, what makes him think he can beat Canelo when he struggled against Madrimov? Canelo, the unified super middleweight world champion, had dismissed the call-out from Crawford, who last fought at super welterweight.
I had a chance to hang around Earl. I had a chance to hang around Terence. And both guys, class act, both. I'm proud of Terence Crawford. I'm proud of him. But you know, after the fight, after all the Terence Crawford fights, I always text him or call him and say congratulations. With Earl Spence, same thing. You know, a lot of times you're gonna hear certain things. You know, I'm not jealous of these fighters. I'm proud of these fighters. I'm for real. I'm very, very proud of these fighters.
Fought Floyd Mayweather at what? You're 23?
23.
That's so fucking young.
Yeah.
What was that like?
I trained so hard, and now obviously I try to beat him because, you know, if you beat him, you want to be the best in the world at 23.
What do you think was so impressive about him?
His experience, he's so smart. He have everything in a fighter, a complete fighter. He don't have power in the punches, but when you that kind of fighter, you don't need it.
You think that was the toughest fight you faced?
No.
What do you
I
think
think it's tough fights and difficult fights. That was a difficult.
Crawford's struggles against Madrimov seemed to be a hit to his credibility, despite winning the fight via unanimous decision. Canelo, though, has dominated at his weight class, and many think the matchup between these two is the biggest fight in boxing today. When asked about it, one veteran promoter, Bob Arum, said Crawford has no chance due to the massive weight gap. But what does that mean for the fight?
Top 5 fighters right now in boxing. That's your top 5 right now in boxing. Not your, the top 5 in boxing right now. Right now.
Champions or just anybody?
Top 5 right
Anybody.
now.
Shakur #1, hands down. Tank, he up there. Canelo, Inoue, Tyson Fury.
Damn. That's now back, beforehand. Back, you know, the back in the day.
Listen, Canelo needs to understand he's a different fighter now. The deterioration is there. He's not the same guy. He's not that destroyer who's looking for knockouts early and keeps a pace and a pressure on you. He throws 30 punches around. You're not the same guy. So telling everyone you're gonna knock them out and then going into, 6 decisions in a row now? Scores a knockdown every time, power's still there. The problem is the pace and the ability to carry on and push. That's the real difference, and that comes with age. He's 34 going on 45 at this, as far as I'm concerned. He's got a ton of fights, been around for a long time, doesn't have that same desire, the same drive to take the chances against these younger, bigger guys, because he is fighting younger, bigger guys. So you got to keep that in mind.
Hell yeah, this is the biggest fight in boxing, no question, said one commentator. Canelo is on another level. I love Crawford. I told you when he fought Spence he would beat him. But Canelo is a different proposition. Canelo can hurt Crawford. I don't think Crawford can hurt Canelo. Still, Bob Arum later told Fight Hype that he can't count Crawford out, even though Crawford would have to pack on 14 extra pounds for the challenge. So, what's the biggest thing people misunderstand about Crawford? The answer might lie in his unique skill set. Crawford is a rare, ambidextrous fighter, and his ability to switch between southpaw and orthodox stuns his opponents. This is what gave Errol Spence so much trouble during their fight. Spence trained to fight a right-handed fighter, and ended up facing Crawford, a southpaw. Even after Crawford's fight with Spence, some believe he's chasing greatness, just like when Manny Pacquiao fought Oscar de la Hoya. Even though Spence hasn't fought in over a year, and a potential bout with Sebastian Fundora is in talks, Crawford wants to challenge himself. Spence, who had the option to activate a rematch clause against Crawford, chose not to. Was it because he needs more time to prepare, or because he knows how tough Crawford is? On the topic of who would win in a fight between Crawford and Canelo, Spence gave his opinion, "If anybody can pull it off, it's Crawford. He's chasing greatness, so why not?" So the question remains, can Terence Crawford upset Canelo? Alvarez, or will Canelo's power and experience prove too much for Bud? Only time will tell.